Hi, everyone. Pleased to be talking with you today. I'll be speaking about how the independent speaking and writing questions on TOEFL leave out important parts of the issues that they're asking about. Frequently, they ask a question where we must give an opinion or compare two things, but perhaps there's something else underlying the question, beneath the question, that we can consider when we're brainstorming. Let's take a look at this question. Practice set 2 from TOEFLETS.org, and you can visit the link at the top of the page to see this free resource on the ETS website. The question is, television advertising directed toward young children from ages 2 to 5 should not be allowed. Do you agree or disagree? When you're brainstorming, you might want to think about your personal experience. So, were you affected by advertising as a young child? uh, at these ages, or perhaps even a little bit older. I think I was. But who was letting you watch TV? Your parents, your brother and sister? Who are you watching TV with? And really, whose responsibility is it to either control the amount of time children watch TV or how they think about what they're watching? Do parents exercise much control? Do parents moderate the amount of television that children watch? And whose responsibility is it? Is it the public, like companies? Should they be legally prohibited from advertising to young children in that age group? Is there a way to uh, avoid targeting that age group? Is it by limiting what TV programs have advertising? Those are all underlying questions that we should consider when we're brainstorming to answer this essay topic. Let's consider another question. This one is agree or disagree. A teacher's ability to relate well with students is more important than excellent knowledge of the subject being taught. And here we have to consider perhaps aspects of student motivation in addition to the teacher's skill level or empathy, right? Um, Teachers have all been students at one time in their lives, and they they know what students go through, don't they? However, what is it that motivates students? Teachers will be able to motivate their students better if they can communicate uh, their motivation themselves, how enthusiastic they are, how excited they are about the subject material that they're teaching. But we're going to compare that with how much knowledge they bring to the topic. So I think the best way to approach this is to consider examples from your own lives. I'm considering, as an example for this essay, if I were to write it, I would consider talking about guitar teachers. So I've studied many musical instruments, and it was very hard to um, move forward with instruments like piano and trumpet. But I did study guitar with professional guitarists. I learned from teachers who were musicians and did that for a living, teaching and playing music. But really, the person who got me most excited about playing guitar was someone that was my age, whose skill level was maybe just a little bit beyond mine. He was not a professional musician, he was not a professional teacher. So I think, again, there are many ways to approach this question and, consider your own life experience. Who has taught you the most? Is it a parent? Are your parents actually teachers? How did you learn your first language? If you want to consider learning language, for instance, did you study mostly with native speakers or non-native speakers like your own classmates who are learning as well? We can learn a lot from everyone, including our classmates. So there are many ways to approach this topic, and there are many things we can consider that are not mentioned in the question. And we can even challenge what the question asks, like who are the teachers that we're considering as examples in this? Are they actually our school teachers? Or are they people that are in our lives as friends or family members? Right. So here's an example of a speaking question, and it's also at the link at the top of the page, a free resource at ets.org. And this is the 45-second speech, 45-second opinion question. You're considering if some people, whether or not you or considering other people, taking risks or being cautious, and which behavior do you think is better? Um, so, what's missing from the question? I think that's something that we can ask, and we can even ask that before we come up with examples. So, are there ways to take risks and avoid danger? That's what comes to mind to me. We can take calculated risks. People do it all the time. And it's not really just about danger, but it's about considering what our options are. So, yeah, we definitely don't want to get hurt when we're doing something like extreme sports. And my example is that. So, I really like using kites. And there's a type of kite that we control with our hands with two lines. So the two line kite you can pull in one direction and the kite goes that way, pull it the other way, the kite goes that way. And it for small kites, they're called stunt kites. But they also use really big kites for kite surfing, so it's on the water. Surfing, kite surfing requires a certificate course to be able to rent the equipment. Just like scuba diving, you can't rent scuba diving equipment unless you have a certification in scuba diving. So when you begin, you always begin with a teacher and you learn very important safety precautions when you start. Yes, you can get hurt on the water. You can crash into someone because these beaches where people surf are very busy. And so that's part of the danger is interacting with the other surfers that are doing kite surfing. However, there are ways to avoid the danger, and you do it by training, by building up your skills slowly over time. So again, uh, it's fun and it's fast, and it was new for me when I was trying it, and I actually didn't do very well, but I was safe. I would say I was with a teacher, and I was able to enjoy that without getting into danger. Um, so I gave my example response in a recording to answer this question, and you can find that on the blog. And I would just say when you answer these questions, yeah, you have to think fast, think about how to answer, but you can also challenge the premise of the question. Think about what's not being asked in the question. And of course, in these exams, the TOEFL and other exams like TOEFL, you're not really evaluated on what you say, although you do have to answer the question specifically. You just are evaluated on your English language use. So there are many ways to approach your answer to the question. It's worth spending the time uh, wisely when you're preparing and brainstorming. 15 seconds is very short, so it might just be enough to think of one example to highlight your opinion. But for writing, you're going to take maybe 3 minutes maximum. I would say 5 minutes to brainstorm. And you can do that with a piece of paper and a pen or pencil when you're in an exam setting. Um, for the online testing now, bring a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker, and you can make notes on the whiteboard. And then at the end of that exam, you erase and you show the proctor who's watching you take the test that you have cleaned your whiteboard. All right, best of luck with your preparation for TOEFL.